Derek arrives at the dealership to find corporate executives in emergency session, desperately trying to contain the damage. He overhears fragments of conversation about massive investor relations and acquisition negotiations, but still fails to connect these discussions to his encounter with Marcus. His narrow focus on saving his own job prevents him from understanding the bigger picture unfolding around him. Marcus arrives at corporate headquarters in his full business regalia: a chauffeur-driven Bentley Continental, personal security detail, and the commanding presence of a man accustomed to boardroom authority. Derek watches from the dealership's security feed, his stomach dropping as he finally begins to understand the magnitude of his error. The stark contrast between the casually dressed customer he dismissed and the powerful executive on his screen is devastating. In the corporate boardroom, Marcus Williams is introduced as the chief executive officer of Williams Capital Group, which holds a controlling interest in the dealership's parent company. The color drains from every face in the room as executives realize they're dealing with someone who could shut down their entire operation with a single decision. Derek's regional manager receives an emergency call, ordering him to immediately report to corporate headquarters. During the drive to corporate, Derek frantically searches for additional information about Marcus Williams, finally discovering the full scope of Williams Capital Group's holdings. The pieces fall together with sickening clarity. The man he humiliated doesn't just have money. He owns Derek's professional future. The Google search results show a business empire worth billions, with Marcus featured in Fortune magazine as one of the nation's most influential executives. Back in the boardroom, Marcus calmly presents a detailed timeline of the morning's discrimination, complete with security footage, witness statements, and social media impact analysis. His presentation is methodical and devastating, revealing not just Derek's individual misconduct but systemic issues within the dealership's culture. Corporate executives scramble to offer solutions, but Marcus's power position allows him to dictate terms entirely. Marcus's demands extend far beyond Derek's termination. He requires comprehensive discrimination training for all staff, diverse hiring initiatives, public corporate accountability measures, and the establishment of a discrimination reporting system. His vision encompasses industry-wide reform, using this incident as a catalyst for meaningful change rather than simple revenge. Derek finally arrives at corporate headquarters and is led to a small conference room where he can see Marcus commanding a boardroom full of powerful executives through the glass wall. The visual is crushing. The man Derek dismissed as unworthy now sits at the head of a table surrounded by people scrambling to appease him. Derek's complete powerlessness in the face of Marcus's authority represents cosmic justice. The corporate team agrees to every one of Marcus's demands, without negotiation. His final requirement cuts deepest. Derek's termination must be public and detailed, serving as a clear message that discrimination carries severe consequences. The man who wielded his authority so carelessly against Marcus now faces public, professional execution by the very person he wronged. Derek's termination announcement goes public within hours, accompanied by a detailed corporate statement acknowledging the discrimination and outlining comprehensive policy changes. The company's response is swift and decisive, clearly motivated by fear of Marcus's potential reaction rather than genuine moral awakening. Derek's professional destruction becomes a case study in how quickly careers can end in the modern era of instant communication and corporate accountability. The legal ramifications expand like ripples in a pond, with federal investigators launching a formal inquiry into the dealership's practices. Other discrimination complaints surface as the media attention encourages previously silent victims to come forward. Derek's LinkedIn profile disappears overnight, and industry connections sever their relationships to avoid association with his toxic reputation. The mortgage company begins calling about late payments as Derek's income vanishes instantaneously. Marcus uses the incident as a springboard for industry-wide transformation, meeting with automotive industry leaders to propose mandatory bias training and diverse hiring quotas. His influence extends far beyond a single dealership, as other companies scramble to implement similar policies to avoid becoming the next cautionary tale. The discrimination incident becomes a catalyst for systematic change across an entire industry. Derek's family life disintegrates as quickly as his professional standing. His wife files for separation, unable to bear the social stigma and financial uncertainty his actions have created. Their children face bullying at school as the viral video makes Derek's face recognizable to classmates and parents alike. The family home goes on the market as Derek desperately tries to maintain mortgage payments without steady income. Marcus establishes a discrimination reporting hotline specifically for the automotive industry, creating a safe space for victims to seek help and justice. He backs this initiative with a $10 million legal defense fund, ensuring that financial constraints won't prevent discrimination victims from seeking justice. The fund becomes a model for other industries grappling with similar issues. Media interviews focus on Marcus's vision for systemic change rather than personal revenge, positioning him as a thoughtful leader rather than a vindictive victim. His measured responses and focus on positive reform earn respect from business leaders and civil rights organizations alike. Derek, meanwhile, discovers his unemployability as background checks consistently reveal his viral discrimination incident. Marcus's company acquires 3 additional dealerships over the following months, implementing model diversity programs that become industry benchmarks. He creates internship programs specifically designed to bring underrepresented communities into automotive sales and management. Each acquisition comes with mandatory sensitivity training and diverse hiring requirements that transform workplace culture. The parent company's stock price initially drops due to the scandal but recovers strongly as investors approve of the diversity initiatives. Wall Street recognizes that companies with strong anti-discrimination policies face lower liability risks and attract broader customer bases. Derek's moment of prejudice paradoxically creates shareholder value through forced accountability. 6 months after the incident, Marcus testifies before a congressional committee examining corporate discrimination practices. His dealership experience becomes a case study in business schools across the nation, teaching future executives about the costs of workplace bias. Derek, meanwhile, works minimum-wage jobs while living in a cramped apartment. His fall from middle-class comfort serving as a stark reminder of consequences. Derek's lawyer explains his limited legal options with brutal honesty. The discrimination was clearly documented, his termination was justified, and defamation claims are unlikely to succeed given the factual nature of the reporting. Every avenue for legal recourse is blocked by the overwhelming evidence of Derek's misconduct and the company's appropriate response to Marcus's complaint. Derek's unemployment hearing becomes an unexpected media circus as reporters recognize the public interest in his case. His attempt to claim wrongful termination falls apart under scrutiny, particularly when he suggests that he's actually the victim of discrimination as a white male. The hearing officer reviews overwhelming evidence against Derek, including security footage that plays on multiple news channels throughout the day. Against his lawyer's advice, Derek's ego compels him to testify in his own defense. Under questioning, his testimony reveals deeper prejudices that extend far beyond the single incident with Marcus. He makes increasingly damaging statements about company culture and customer profiling that destroy any remaining sympathy for his position. Each answer digs his hole deeper as he attempts to justify the unjustifiable. Marcus attends the hearing as an observer, his presence serving as a silent reminder of Derek's complete powerlessness. Derek's lawyer desperately signals for him to stop talking, but Derek's need to defend his actions overrides legal strategy. The self-destruction is painful to watch, as Derek reveals the full extent of his prejudiced worldview to a room full of legal professionals and journalists. The hearing officer denies Derek's unemployment benefits, citing gross misconduct as grounds for termination. Derek's public meltdown is captured by news cameras, providing a final humiliating capstone to his professional downfall. His emotional breakdown in the hearing room becomes another viral moment, cementing his reputation as a cautionary tale about workplace discrimination. In the most crushing moment of the proceedings, Derek recognizes Marcus in the gallery and approaches him with a desperate apology. His plea for mercy is heartbreaking in its complete futility, as Derek finally understands that his single moment of prejudice has destroyed everything he worked to build. Marcus's response is professionally polite but unforgiving. "Actions have consequences, Mr. Patterson. I hope you've learned that." Derek leaves the hearing broken and defeated, with photographers capturing his walk of shame for the next day's newspapers. The local news runs his story as a warning about workplace discrimination, ensuring that his face becomes permanently associated with the consequences of prejudice. His transformation from confident manager to broken man serves as a powerful deterrent for others who might consider similar behavior. 1 year after the incident, Marcus's discrimination protocols have been adopted by 73% of major automotive dealerships nationwide. Federal legislation specifically references his case as justification for stronger workplace protection laws. The transformation extends far beyond individual companies, creating industry-wide standards that protect customers and employees alike from discriminatory treatment. The dealership where Derek once worked reports record customer satisfaction scores across all demographic groups, proving that inclusive business practices drive profitability rather than hindering it. New diverse sales teams reflect the community they serve, creating an environment where all customers feel welcomed and respected. The contrast with Derek's era is stark and undeniable. Marcus speaks at a corporate diversity conference attended by 5,000 executives, all committed to implementing accountability measures in their own organizations. His keynote speech becomes required viewing in business schools, illustrating how individual actions can catalyze widespread systemic change. The audience's standing ovation reflects genuine respect for his leadership, rather than mere political correctness. The documentary crew follows Marcus's transformation efforts over several months, culminating in a feature film that becomes a streaming sensation. The documentary contrasts Derek's fall with Marcus's rise, showing how dignity and strategic thinking can overcome even the most blatant discrimination. Derek watches the film from his studio apartment, working a night security job that barely covers his basic expenses. Williams Capital Group becomes the leading investor in minority-owned dealerships, providing capital and expertise to entrepreneurs who might otherwise lack access to automotive industry opportunities. Marcus creates a $50 million fund specifically designed to promote diverse ownership in the automotive sector, fundamentally changing the industry's demographic landscape. 3 major automobile manufacturers adopt Williams protocols for dealer bias training, implementing Marcus's standards across 12,000 locations nationwide. His consulting work on these implementations generates additional revenue that he channels back into civil rights initiatives, creating a virtuous cycle of positive change funded by the very industry that once discriminated against him. 3 years after the incident that changed everything, Marcus sits in the same dealership where Derek Patterson once humiliated him. The space has been completely transformed, both physically and culturally, into a model of inclusive excellence that welcomes customers of every background. The marble floors still gleam, but now they reflect a diverse staff serving clients who represent the full spectrum of American society. Marcus reflects on his journey from victim to industry transformer, emphasizing that real change requires sustained effort rather than viral moments of outrage. His philosophy has evolved beyond personal justice to encompass systematic reform that benefits countless people he'll never meet. The dealership walls now display diversity awards, community partnership certificates, and employee recognition programs that would have been unthinkable during Derek's tenure. In interviews, Marcus consistently emphasizes that his response wasn't about revenge, but about responsibility, his obligation to use influence for positive change. Young Black professionals now shop confidently in the welcoming environment he helped create, their presence serving as living proof that dignity and determination can overcome entrenched prejudice. The transformation extends beyond symbolism to substantial economic opportunity for previously excluded communities. Derek, now working retail after years of unemployment, occasionally encounters people who recognize him from the viral video. Rather than hiding from his past, he uses these encounters to teach his own children about respecting others regardless of their appearance or perceived status. His fall from grace, while devastating personally, has become a teaching moment for his family about the importance of treating all people with dignity. Marcus establishes a scholarship fund for automotive industry education, focusing specifically on underrepresented communities who might not otherwise consider careers in automotive sales and management. The program provides not just financial support but mentorship and networking opportunities that open doors previously closed to diverse candidates. Each scholarship represents another step toward the inclusive industry Marcus envisions. The most surprising development comes 3 years later, when Derek sends a handwritten letter to Marcus, accepting full responsibility for his actions and thanking him for industry improvements that have made Derek a better person. The letter demonstrates genuine growth and understanding, though Marcus chooses not to respond directly. Some lessons, he believes, must be learned independently rather than validated by their victims. Marcus Williams proved that the best response to discrimination isn't anger, it's action. His strategic approach transformed personal humiliation into industry-wide reform, creating lasting change that benefits countless people beyond himself. The key lessons from his experience apply to anyone facing workplace discrimination. Document everything carefully, use whatever power you have responsibly, and focus on creating lasting change rather than temporary satisfaction. Should companies implement more comprehensive background checks for managers who interact with diverse customers? Share your thoughts in the comments below and let us know about your own experiences with workplace discrimination. Marcus's foundation now offers free legal consultation for discrimination victims, with website resources available for anyone facing similar challenges in their workplace or community. Statistics show that discrimination reporting increased by 400% following Marcus's industry initiatives, suggesting that his public stand encouraged others to speak up about their own experiences. This ripple effect demonstrates how individual courage can inspire widespread social change when combined with strategic thinking and sustained effort. The story continues to unfold as Marcus develops new initiatives aimed at transforming discrimination reporting from shame-based systems to empowerment-based platforms. His technology company is creating digital tools that make it easier for victims to document incidents and connect with legal resources, potentially revolutionizing how society addresses workplace bias. If you've experienced discrimination in any form, consider sharing your story in the comments below. Your voice might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today. Real change starts with individual action, and every person who speaks up makes it easier for the next person to find their courage. Together, we can create the inclusive society that Marcus Williams envisioned when he walked out of that dealership 3 years ago. Next week, we'll explore another incredible story of justice served. When a homeless veteran is refused service at an upscale restaurant, the owner discovers that the man holds the deed to the entire building. Subscribe and hit the notification bell to catch that amazing story of hidden power and ultimate accountability. Remember Marcus Williams's words, "Turn your pain into someone else's power." That's how real change happens. Sometimes the most powerful response to injustice is the patient work of building a better world for everyone who comes after us. Sir, people like you don't deserve to touch these cars. The words were more than an insult. They were like a cold knife, stabbing straight into the self-esteem of the man standing in the middle of the showroom. Derek Patterson, the white sales manager, held his head high, his eyes filled with contempt, as if he were the sole judge of who deserved to be there. Marcus Williams didn't react. He stood between the $2 billion cars, the S-Class and the GLS, with a steely gaze, his jaw clenched, every muscle of his face holding back a roaring rage. Not a word was spoken, but his silence was so heavy that it could have cracked the room. The security cameras recorded it all. Every venomous word, every arrogant gesture, every contemptuous glance. And every second of that footage would become the evidence that would bury Derek's entire career. He thought he was in control of the game. Little did he know, the man he had just looked down on was the one who would bring his entire world crashing down. The Saturday morning sun streams through the floor-to-ceiling windows of premier Mercedes-Benz as Marcus Williams pulls into the parking lot in a modest rental car. His usual Bentley Continental sits in the shop after a minor fender bender, leaving him temporarily without his typical symbol of success. Dressed in casual weekend attire, designer jeans, polo shirt, and comfortable sneakers, he looks like any other customer seeking to browse luxury vehicles on a leisurely Saturday. The dealership's modern showroom gleams with polished marble floors and strategically positioned vehicles that catch the light like automotive jewelry. As Marcus steps through the glass doors, the receptionist barely glances up from her computer screen. Her dismissive glance takes in his casual appearance and the economy rental visible through the window, and she immediately returns to her tasks without offering assistance. The subtle snub doesn't go unnoticed, but Marcus has learned to pick his battles wisely. He moves deeper into the showroom, admiring the latest models while waiting for a sales representative to approach. Derek Patterson observes from his glass office overlooking the sales floor, his eyes immediately drawn to the black man wandering among vehicles that cost more than most people's annual salaries. In Derek's mind, shaped by years of prejudice and assumptions, Marcus doesn't fit the profile of their typical clientele. He watches as other sales staff engage warmly with a middle-aged white couple examining an E-Class, while Marcus stands ignored near a gleaming AMG GT. 20 minutes pass and Derek's assumptions solidify into action. The manager finally approaches, his body language radiating condescension from the first step. His smile is thin and practiced, the kind reserved for people he considers beneath his establishment standards. "Can I help you find something?" Derek asks, his tone suggesting that Marcus has wandered into the wrong building entirely. The question carries an underlying message. This place isn't for people like you. Marcus turns from examining the AMG GT's interior, his expression remaining pleasantly neutral despite the obvious slight. "Yes, I'm interested in looking at a few models, perhaps taking a test drive," he responds, with the calm confidence of a man accustomed to making six-figure decisions. His voice carries no trace of irritation, though internally he recognizes the familiar pattern of discrimination he's encountered throughout his successful career. Derek's eyes narrow slightly, as if Marcus's articulate response somehow challenges his preconceived notions. "Well, these are pretty expensive vehicles," Derek says, gesturing vaguely at the cars surrounding them. "What kind of price range are we talking about? I mean, we want to make sure we're showing you something appropriate." The word hangs in the air with deliberate emphasis, its implications crystal clear to both men. Derek's confidence grows as he believes he's subtly steering the conversation toward Marcus's inevitable departure. Marcus requests to see the specifications on several models, pulling out his phone to compare features and pricing. His questions are detailed and informed, revealing a sophisticated understanding of automotive technology and luxury market positioning. Yet Derek responds to each inquiry with barely concealed impatience, offering cursory answers while repeatedly suggesting that Marcus might find better value at other dealerships across town. The coded language isn't lost on either man. "I'd like to speak with the manager about arranging a test drive," Marcus states calmly, his patience wearing thin but his composure intact. Derek's chest puffs slightly with self-importance as he responds, "You're looking at him, Derek Patterson, general manager." The revelation that this prejudiced man holds the highest authority in the building hits Marcus like a physical blow, but he maintains his diplomatic facade. Derek's boldness increases with his perceived authority. He begins making increasingly pointed comments about knowing his clientele and protecting the dealership's reputation. Other customers begin to notice the tension, some exchanging uncomfortable glances while others pretend not to hear the manager's barely veiled discrimination. Sales staff hover nearby, clearly aware that something inappropriate is unfolding, but uncertain how to intervene without risking their own position. The situation escalates dramatically when Derek demands that Marcus leave the premises immediately. "I'm going to have to ask you to go," he states loudly, enough for nearby customers to hear clearly. "This is a place of business, and we can't have people just wandering around wasting our time." The public nature of the confrontation is deliberate, designed to humiliate Marcus in front of witnesses and assert Derek's dominance in his own territory. When Marcus calmly refuses to leave, explaining that he's a legitimate customer with genuine interest in purchasing a vehicle, Derek's face reddens with indignation. "Security!" he calls out, summoning a reluctant security guard who clearly recognizes the situation's inappropriate nature. The guard hesitates, his discomfort obvious as he approaches the well-dressed black man who poses no apparent threat beyond challenging the manager's authority. Derek announces to the entire showroom that Marcus is trespassing and acting suspicious, drawing stares from every person in the building. Some customers pull out their phones, sensing that they're witnessing something significant. The manager's voice carries across the marble floors as he continues his verbal assault, questioning Marcus's right to be in an establishment of this caliber. The security guard reluctantly begins escorting Marcus toward the exit, his face showing clear reluctance to participate in what he knows is wrong. The peak of humiliation comes as Derek follows them toward the door, unable to resist one final public degradation. "Have you ever even owned a car worth more than $5,000? He calls out loudly. "Maybe you should take the bus home and save up for a few more years." His laughter echoes through the showroom as other customers watch in shocked silence. Several people continue filming with their phones, instinctively knowing they're documenting something that will have consequences. Marcus pauses at the threshold, his hand on the glass door handle. For a moment, the entire showroom holds its breath, waiting to see how this composed man will respond to such blatant disrespect. Then, with eerie calm, Marcus turns back and makes eye contact with Derek. "You might want to answer your phone in about 5 minutes, he says quietly, his voice carrying a certainty that sends an unexpected chill down Derek's spine. The comment seems nonsensical, but something in Marcus's tone suggests that this encounter is far from over. Sitting in his rental car in the dealership's parking lot, Marcus's hands tremble slightly as the full weight of the humiliation settles over him. But rather than driving away in defeat, he reaches for his phone with the methodical precision of a man who has built an empire through strategic thinking. His first call goes to his executive assistant, Sarah Chen, whose weekend is about to become very busy indeed. "Sarah, I need you to initiate Protocol 7 on the Patterson dealership file immediately," he says, his voice carrying ice-cold professional authority. The conversation reveals layers of Marcus's true identity that Derek could never have imagined. Williams Capital Group has been quietly evaluating premier Mercedes-Benz for potential acquisition, and Marcus had come to the dealership for an informal assessment of their operations. The irony is devastating. The man Derek just humiliated literally holds the power to acquire the entire business. Sarah's sharp intake of breath over the phone confirms the magnitude of Derek's mistake. Marcus's second call reaches his legal team, requesting a complete background investigation on Derek Patterson within hours. "I want everything: employment history, social media profiles, complaint records, performance reviews, everything," he instructs. His third call connects him with the head of human resources at Mercedes-Benz parent company, a contact cultivated through years of high-level business relationships. "We have a situation that requires immediate intervention," he explained calmly. Inside the dealership, Derek basks in what he believes is his triumph, joking with staff about cleaning house and maintaining standards. His phone begins ringing with an unfamiliar corporate number, but he's too intoxicated by his perceived victory to be bothered with business calls on a Saturday. The irony would be hilarious if it weren't so destructive. The very call that could save his career goes unanswered because Derek is too busy celebrating his act of discrimination. Marcus makes one final call to his personal assistant, canceling his afternoon meetings and requesting that all security footage from the dealership be legally preserved. "And Sarah," he adds with grim satisfaction, "make sure our friends at the local news stations know that an interesting story might be developing. Sometimes, justice needs witnesses." Derek's phone continues its insistent ringing, the corporate headquarters number flashing repeatedly on his screen. When he finally answers with obvious irritation, the panicked voice of his regional manager, Tom Rodriguez, cuts through his complacency like a blade. "Derek, what the hell happened with a customer named Williams today?" Tom's voice carries a level of urgency that immediately sobers Derek's celebratory mood. Initially, Derek boasts about his handling of the situation, describing how he protected company interests and maintained appropriate standards for their clientele. He recounts the morning's events with obvious pride, expecting commendation for his decisive action. However, Tom's growing horror becomes apparent as Derek continues his narrative, each detail adding weight to what Tom realizes is a catastrophic liability exposure. The regional manager frantically explains that corporate legal has already received a formal discrimination complaint, complete with video evidence that's spreading rapidly across multiple platforms. Derek's face drains of color as he learns that his moment of prejudiced triumph has been captured and broadcast to thousands of viewers. The videos show his discriminatory behavior in stark detail, providing undeniable evidence of his actions. Tom's final instruction chills Derek to the bone. "Stay in your office, don't leave the premises, and speak to absolutely no one until corporate legal arrives." The line goes dead, leaving Derek staring at his phone in growing panic. Through his office window, he watches the normal Saturday business continue, oblivious to the storm gathering around their manager. Marcus receives updates on his phone, showing that the customer-filmed video has already garnered 50,000 views and continues climbing rapidly. Major news outlets have begun reaching out for interviews, sensing a story with significant social impact. The speed of modern communication means Derek's career destruction is unfolding in real time, visible to anyone with an internet connection. The corporate legal team arrives at Premier Mercedes-Benz like a SWAT unit responding to a crisis. Derek faces preliminary questioning while desperately trying to control the narrative, claiming he was simply following established security protocols and exercising appropriate managerial discretion. His attempts at justification only serve to dig his hole deeper as the lawyers record every word for potential future proceedings. The legal team reviews security footage from multiple angles, their expressions growing increasingly grim as they watch Derek's behavior from start to finish. They also collect witness statements from customers and staff, painting a comprehensive picture of discrimination that will be impossible to defend in any legal forum. Derek's confident demeanor crumbles as he realizes the overwhelming evidence against him. Meanwhile, Marcus receives a call from the dealership's parent company CEO, requesting an emergency meeting for the following morning. Marcus's assistant schedules the appointment, noting the desperate urgency in the executive's voice. The CEO clearly understands that they're dealing with someone whose influence extends far beyond a single car purchase, though the full scope of Marcus's power remains unknown. Derek learns that corporate has suspended him pending a complete investigation effective immediately. His protests and threats to sue reveal his complete lack of understanding about his precarious position. The man who wielded authority so carelessly just hours earlier now finds himself powerless in the face of corporate machinery designed to protect the company from exactly this type of liability. As night falls, the video count reaches 500,000 views, with a hashtag about dealership discrimination trending nationally. Derek's wife calls hysterically, reporting that neighbors and friends are asking questions about the viral video showing her husband's face. The personal cost of his professional misconduct begins manifesting immediately, affecting not just Derek but his entire family. Derek spends a sleepless night desperately researching Marcus Williams online, finally discovering professional photographs that reveal Marcus's wealth and status far exceed his assumptions. However, Derek still doesn't grasp the full scope of his mistake, focusing on Marcus's individual success rather than understanding the institutional power at his disposal. The research reveals a successful businessman, but Derek fails to connect the dots to Williams Capital Group's investment portfolio. Morning brings national news coverage of the discrimination incident, with Derek watching his humiliation broadcast across multiple networks. The story has legs, as journalists recognize the broader implications for corporate accountability and workplace discrimination. Derek's phone rings constantly with calls from friends, family members, and former colleagues expressing shock and disappointment at his behavior. Derek's wife demands immediate action to repair the damage, unable to comprehend how her husband's single moment of prejudice has destroyed their carefully constructed suburban life. Derek calls corporate headquarters repeatedly, begging for a chance to apologize directly to Marcus and somehow undo the catastrophic damage. His desperation is palpable as he realizes that his entire career hangs in the balance. At corporate headquarters, the CEO prepares for his meeting with Marcus by researching Williams Capital Group's extensive investment portfolio. The growing horror on the executive's face reveals his realization that they're about to meet with someone who could potentially own their entire operation. The irony is staggering. The victim of their manager's discrimination holds the power to acquire or destroy their business.